evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the June 1st, 2026, 6 p.m. meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening and those who are joining us through our live feed or YouTube channel. We'd like to welcome everyone here today. Reminders that our board priorities are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and county employees. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval and discussion of the agenda. If you've had an opportunity to look it over, I'll entertain a motion to approve or modify.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item number 2 is public comments. Anyone in the audience, I can get it out here in a second. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on items that are not already on the agenda, please come forward and state your name and general township or residence. And then if we'd ask that you keep your comments to about 3 minutes in an effort to be able to get everyone up that wants to speak. And this is a time for the board to hear your comments and hear your concerns. And anyone who'd like to come in and address the board, please come forth. Come on, sir. There you go. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, please state your name for the record, please.
Leon Cobb. I live on Buffalo Road, north of Archer Lodge. I was here at the May 4th meeting and spoke basically about how important it is to pass our freedoms and liberties down to our children and grandchildren. And once we lose them, we never get them back. I didn't speak to, I basically read from the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. But that was on Monday night. Thursday morning, I was at my place and a dump truck pulls in and a county car behind it. And the county car rides by, stops, comes back and passes by while me and the dump truck driver is standing there talking. There's nothing against the law about driving a dump truck down the road. So we wondered, you know, and he would stop and watch. Well, the dump truck driver left, this county car followed him right on into Wake County. Okay. I ain't one on coincidences. So in a little bit, it came back by again and stopped down the road and was watching my driveway. Well, I went to see who it was, and they left. Well, I knew he followed the dump truck driver, and I knew where the dump truck came from. So I went to where the dump truck came from, and there he was. And it was the zoning code enforcement man. And I asked him what he was doing, and he said he was investigating a complaint. And I said, have you got a complaint about me? And he said, no. I said, well, why are you at my driveway? And I got the typical government employee answer, I'm just doing as I was told. So it makes me wonder, is this retaliation, or is a citizen that speaks out, steps out of line, going to be faced with intimidation? I don't know, but it seemed mighty odd to me that it happened 3 days later.
Okay.
So, and another thing,
All right.
this UDO, we've got a planning department that gets paid pretty good money, so they must be pretty smart. But why did we, if we as citizens, if you don't trust the planning department to write the UDO, how can the citizens trust the planning department to read it, understand it, and enforce it fairly to the citizens of this county? Because in 640 pages, unless you're the type that just drives in from Raleigh, goes in the house and stays there till the next morning and go back, you're going to violate something in 640 pages. So can we trust the county to enforce this, or is it going to be nitpicked depending to who and what? So, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Thank you. All right. Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Is anyone out in the hall? Okay. Any emails, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
All right. At this point, I'll close the public comment section. We'll move on to public hearings. Rezone conditional use request, case number 2601. I'll open the conditional zoning district hearing and call on our planning director, Braston Newton, to come forth and present the case background and/or discussion.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. Your first and only case this evening is 26-01. It's a petition to rezone approximately 2.6 acres of a 6.9 acre tract located at 6232 Raleigh Road in Elevation Township from agriculture residential to general business conditional zoning district. Owner applicant Curtis Farrell, and the conditional zoning request involves a specific use for indoor storage of RVs. You may recall you've seen this before in a different iteration with a similar but substantially different request. Property is located just to the south of, in the bottom, just to the south of West Johnston High School entrance. And previously, back late last year, they were before this board with a conditional zoning request to permit a scaffolding business at that location. That was subsequently denied approval by this board upon recommendation also by the planning board at that time. With regard to traffic, Raleigh Road shows a count of about 4,500 vehicles per day. This is a 2024 count, and it does appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as a secondary road currently with adequate design capacity and no noted improvements other than what would be normally associated with modernization type improvements, which would be just a widening, not a lane widening, but a widening of asphalt and improvements to the shoulders to ensure safe travels. You will see in your packet there is a site plan that does detail the location of the buildings, the internal circulation for traffic, and also the ingress egress at 2 points, both driveways to the north and the south. You may recall from a prior request, the driveway to the north was not at a right angle, which presented some issues, and it was a different type of traffic, higher intensity use. That has since, there's been a redesign of that, so these both are 90-degree angles. And at this time, staff is glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the planning director? All right, sir, and we'll hear from the applicant this time. And if you could put the proposed conditions up, please. Come on, sir. How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Kurt Farrell, 17 Seashore Point, Clayton. So, good evening, Chairman Harris and Commissioners. Again, my name is Kurt Farrell. I reside at 17 Seashore Point, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present Case 2601 and the time you have devoted to reviewing the request. I am seeking your approval to allow a carefully conditioned indoor RV storage facility on property that I have owned for approximately 8 years. Before discussing the project itself, I would like to address the primary concerns that have been raised regarding this request. First, this proposal is substantially different from the previous application as we just discussed. I listened very carefully to the concerns that were raised in that process, redesigned the project to significantly reduce the intensity and impact. This application is limited to indoor storage of recreational vehicles only. There will be no outdoor storage, no equipment yard, no truck terminal activities, no loading operations, no vehicle repair work, no fueling, no wastewater disposal, and no overnight occupancy. These restrictions are included as conditions of approval and are enforceable by Johnston County. In addition, the project is permanently limited to a maximum of 2 buildings and a maximum of 16 RVs in total. As we all know, Johnston County continues to experience tremendous growth. Many surrounding neighborhoods and homeowner associations do not allow RV storage at residents' homes. Based on my market research and discussion with local RV owners, there is a clear need for additional secure indoor storage facilities to protect these investments while reducing the need of RV storage in residential neighborhoods and along the roadways. This request is a very low intensity commercial use that operates quietly and generates minimal traffic. Unlike retail stores, restaurants, convenience stores, or other commercial developments, customers access their RVs only occasionally when preparing or returning from trips. There will be no daily customer turnover, no delivery traffic, and no industrial operations. I also understand concerns regarding Raleigh Road and West Johnston High School traffic. This use does not generate school-related congestion or daily traffic patterns. With a maximum of 16 RVs and no other commercial activity permitted, traffic impacts will remain very limited. I have also worked to ensure this project blends with the surrounding community. The proposed building will be metal, consistent with the existing structure on the property and other buildings located throughout the surrounding area. I have taken deliberate steps to maintain compatibility with neighboring properties and preserve the rural character of the area. Additional project commitments include development limited to the 2.6 acres of the 6.9. All client RVs are completely stored inside. No vehicle repair, fueling, wastewater disposal, or overnight occupancy. Hours of operation are limited from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. Lighting directed downward and away from adjacent properties. Stormwater management designed in accordance with all county and state regulations. Landscape buffering installed as required by staff recommendations. NCDOT permit and access requirements to be fully complied with, and I did send that off on May 4th to the DOT, still waiting on a response. Full compliance with all conditions recommended by the staff and approved through the conditional zoning process. This proposal is also consistent with Johnston County adopted comprehensive land use plan. The property is located within a regional mixed-use center where commercial and service uses are anticipated and encouraged. County planning staff already reviewed the request, recommended approval. The planning board also reviewed the application, heard both supporting and opposing comments, and recommended approval. Commissioners, this request is not for a shopping center, industrial operation, truck yard, repair facility, or outdoor storage lot. It is a carefully conditioned request for indoor storage of a maximum of 16 RVs in 2 buildings with extensive restrictions designed specifically to address neighbor concerns. I respectfully ask for your approval of case 2601, and thank you for your time and consideration. I would like to answer any questions that you may have or concerns.
All right, any questions for Mr. Farrell?
I guess I just wanted to make sure you had, at least when I looked at your drawing, you're going to start with the 3,200 square and expand that and then
Yes.
potentially add a second.
Yes, sir. So the idea is obviously we got to get marketing, we got to get the clients in. As the business would improve or grow, I would expand that building, and if that filled up, I would build the other 8-bay building.
All right. I don't have anything. And this is a split zoning, so only part of the property will be rezoned.
Correct. The wetlands, and I did this on purpose just to exclude any concerns, but I left the wetlands, the woods, it's all excluded out of the zoning just to keep that barrier and buffer.
Any other questions for?
And how large are those buildings?
Well, it's going to be 50 by 64, the first building, and then we would add another 50 by 64, and then it would be 128 by 50 as well for the third building.
Anything else for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak on this process, please come forth and do so now, either for or against. All right.
Somebody's coming.
I think somebody's coming in, I'm not sure. Come on, you're good. How you doing? Please state your name
How are you?
and township for the record, please.
Samantha Worley. I'm at 6217 Raleigh Road, directly across the street from the parcel in question. That lot is owned by my mother, Jennifer K. Coates Searles, and we're her renters. So the planning board recommended approval on this application this time. We would argue that it's not substantially different from the prior application. He's changed it from outdoor storage to indoor storage to get around the 12-month limit after a denied application. but it's basically the same problems, the same parcel, the same area, the same community, just a slight tweak of the application, we would argue. We contend that the reasons for this new recommended application were incomplete or incorrect for the recommendation to approve this time. The first problem, the planning and zoning staff based their approval on the conditions and the supposed low impact, but these conditions do not explicitly limit the amount of traffic he can run in and out of this space. In his site plan, he gives estimates of how many RVs can fit in each of his buildings, but there's nothing to prevent him storing things other than RVs. There's nothing to prevent him from filling the outdoor spaces. There's no definition of recreational vehicles. There's nothing to prevent him from renting out to a retailer who could move inventory and change that inventory every other day. So both the conditions and the low impact are incomplete, we feel. The second problem, a member of the planning board asked staff how many parcels are zoned general business in our area, and staff referred to the I-40 Interstate Highway interchange zone on 210, but neither his parcel nor anything around it falls in that area. So the correct answer to that question was 0. There are 0 parcels zoned general business from Coates Crossroads all the way down to where Raleigh splits into Macklemore and Polenta. We are completely residential. We do not have the infrastructure for business. We barely have the infrastructure for West Johnston. We've got one very short turn lane and a stoplight. There are no shoulders, no way for emergency vehicles to get through if there's a traffic jam. This would be the only spot zone business parcel in that 3-mile stretch. The third problem, we still do not believe that the large-scale warehouse indoor storage of this type is allowed in a general business zone. The Section 1490 table of business, commercial, and industrial uses in the code gives a long list of what uses are allowed in what zones. And of course, this specific type of use is not listed. The nearest analogous use, we believe, is a bus storage facility, which is only permitted in industrial zones. So both a bus storage facility and this kind of RV storage facility would involve large warehouses requiring lots of security, lights, large vehicles going in and out. This was raised with the planning board, and they said that when the table, correctly, that when the table doesn't cover a specific use, you find the most similar one. They believe the most similar one is outdoor storage, which is allowed in a general business zone, but his outdoor storage application was denied last time. But I really don't think that that is as analogous as they believe it to be. I believe that the bus storage facility is much closer, so to conclude, this use is enough like an industrial use that it has no place in a business zone, much less in an agricultural residential community. The fourth problem, another planning board member seemed persuaded by the fact that this parcel falls into a designated mixed regional center for future land use, defined in Envision 2040. There are only 2 designated mixed zones in the county in the Envision plan. The first is at 4042, and then ours at 40 and 210. And the Envision 2040 team did some kind of community feedback process. The document online had community surveys in it. I don't think we were asked. I'm fairly certain the rest of the neighborhood wasn't consulted, even though we are one of only 2 of these zones in the county. Of the groups who were surveyed, only 49% agreed with the idea of mixed regional zones. But here again, this reason for approval is incomplete. The mixed regional boundary actually ends at Raleigh Road. Half a mile of residential properties on the northwest side of Raleigh Road are on the extreme fringe of that mixed-use area. Our land, which is directly across the street, is not in the mixed regional area. All the parcels on that side are low-density agricultural. So the mixed-use zone is a fiction. The only use in the surrounding area is residential. There are no businesses out there. It must not be used to decide this application. And I mean, this is how it began on 210. There are only 2 or 3 farmhouses left on 210. They bulldozed the last one or one of the last ones for a sheets a few weeks ago. Sometimes 210 is an example of the nightmare that happens when you start spot zoning and the businesses creep in and there's no infrastructure there to handle it. Often it takes 15 minutes to get from Coates Crossroads to the 40 ramp, and we have none of the infrastructure that they have. So if you allow this, this will act as an incentive for others to artificially inflate their own property values by rezoning at the expense of all the rest of the community. So we other residents would ask you please to do the right thing as you did last time.
Thank you, Ms. Worley. All right, anyone else would like to speak for or against this case number 2601? Please state your name for the record, sir.
Okay, I'm Steve Shupwash, 6505 Raleigh Road. And first, let me say, I like Kurt. I've known him for, I guess, he said 8 years, over 8 years. But I just want to give you a little history on the property. My wife and I bought this property from her relatives after they received it from the grandfather, I guess you'd say, grandfather. And we had done a little 6-lot subdivision on the other side of the road. And so we decided they didn't know what to do with it. Neither one of them are land developers or didn't want it. And so we came to terms to buy it from them. And my first layout was this. I'll be glad to pass this around. Can you show it on something? Okay. I had 26 lots. Excuse me, I'm sorry, 24 lots. Well, to do the 24 lots, I knew I was going to have to widen the road, put a turn lane in. I knew I was going to have to do that. And I don't know, somewhere along the line, I met Kurt and then the guy that bought the 6.5 acres beside him. And they both wanted, you know, a nice place to build their forever home. And we liked them, and so we decided we would just split it in two and sell him one and then sell his friend. I guess they're still friends. We would sell that other to him. But basically, to do that, I mean, you know, well, you can do the math, 8 lots at $85,000. A lot of money that we really took off the table to get 16 lots instead of the 24. But we were going to have to widen the road, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we left $150,000, $200,000 on the table because we're family-oriented people. And Kurt's gone in there to build a nice building. But first, I had to spend a lot of money. I had to haul dirt down to build where his house is, which is behind with a septic tank, where his septic tank is on his lot. I had to fill that in and compact it to be able to get him a building site. I know things change in your life, and what happens today doesn't matter because things can always change tomorrow. But I guess my question is this. Does he really want to own indoor storage? Because I looked at doing indoor RV storage, and it's very expensive. The way I was going to do it, I mean, you have to have plugs. People want their RVs plugged up, blah, blah, blah. It's very expensive to do. Now, if he wants indoor storage, then the guy that just put the trailer park in, or the campground in, whatever you want to call it, behind the ABC store, he's got an area that he will be glad to sell him to do indoor mini storage, or indoor RV storage. What I would like to see him do, but it's not my land. I mean, he could make money on the land with what he's done to it and what's happened today. And I hate to say, you know, we want to try to cripple a man with land that he purchased, but use it for the reason that the purpose that you bought it for. That's the reason we sold it. We sold it for residential and not for commercial. Samantha said there's nothing on Raleigh Road. If you go all the way to South Johnston, you have 2 industrial sites. You have Fred Smith and you have the Martin Marietta, and there's nothing else on Raleigh Road that's on commercial, business, nothing on Raleigh Road. Now, I realize that everything at 210, all that corridor is probably all going to be industrial, commercial, business in the future, but it's not right now. Another thing is, you know, if I were selling you a lot in this subdivision, and you said, okay, I want to come in, I'm going to build a house, I'm going to get another builder to build it. Well, my control was, I have to see what you're gonna build. I have to prove what you're gonna build. I wanna see what you're gonna build. There's nothing here, I mean, I know what he said, and I don't think he's gonna put junk up, but still, people wanna see what their neighbors are gonna be like. I wanna see what it's gonna be. And, just a couple things about the site plan. You know, one of the things too, Braxton's still in here. Yeah. You know, as a residential builder, when I sold lots that were on Raleigh Road, there was a 70-foot setback before I could build a house. So basically, these people can't even use that 70 feet. But if I'm gonna do it in business, it's 40 feet. I don't understand why a residential person gets penalized 30 feet from what a business person can do. Second thing, 45-foot Class A. Has anybody ever driven a 45-foot Class A? Well, I have. The gross vehicle weight on that is 63,000 pounds. Now, you can go tonight, and you can go to Campers Inn, and you can buy you a 45-foot RV, and you can drive it home. No experience needed, no one to train you, no one to teach you how to drive it, but you can do that. A turning radius for a 45-foot RV is 110 feet. Now, that's for a 180-degree turn. A 90-degree turning diameter is up to 90 feet. Well, when I look at the site plan, I mean, with where the septic field is, and I know that's where the repair area is too, I don't know how you're gonna be able to get one in there. And then, I guess my last point is, and I don't know who prepared the site plan, I don't know if he read the guidelines of the DOT or whatever, but in a business zone, driveways have to be a minimum of 600 feet apart. This one is 295 feet. So, I know he said he's applied for his permit, but I'm not sure it's gonna happen. So, you know, Kirk, like you, love you, but I tell you, you can take it, you can fix it, and you can make money on your lot if you sell it as residential. You're a realtor, you know what 6.5 acres will go for in a very nice area. And, anyway, any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman who literally spoke with the application said that he was only applying for rezoning the front half of his parcel because the back half was wetlands that he could not build on. Your plan showed, building construction in that particular area. Did it not?
Where is it? No, where is it? I saw it on the board. Well, I have a pointer. Okay, see, now this is what he's, I mean, his stuff actually comes in probably about right in here, is where his lot comes in.
Yes.
So, yeah, right. But, the wetlands, and I didn't bring the wetland delineation map. I had the wetland delineation done by the Corps of Engineers. And see, he's not, his wetlands, and I don't know if it showed you in his site plan or not, but he's not in the wetlands. The wetlands come up like this, and, well, it's hard for me to tell now. It's hard for me to tell where it goes.
Well,
No, I mean, there is a space back here that he can build a house. I don't know what he do about septic, unless he bumped it to the front. And that's another thing on the site plan, how does he didn't even have access to the back 4 acres now.
Well, my question is that property buildable that's on his tract behind the site where he's at, or not?
Behind here?
Yes.
No.
Your site plan showing those two lots off that cul-de-sac are not, anything proposed on?
Anything what?
any building proposed in that, in your original plan?
No, because that was my original site plan that I had done to maximize, obviously, my acres.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
But is it buildable or not? Because that gets back to, you know, what he can use this land for. If it's not buildable, then he would not be able to develop that area back there as you're suggesting that you had once considered doing.
That's the right idea, but that's as far as I got with it. That's as far as I got with the plan after I met these guys, and I knew that I was gonna have to put turning lane out here. And the turn lane was gonna cost me $200,000.
Well, I guess my
So
question,
I, you know, trade money for money is what I was looking at.
in order to build the density that you were proposing there, you were gonna have to do widen the road, put turn lanes in.
Right.
Behind where he is showing the development now for his proposed, project, is that buildable area or not?
No, this is not buildable. But that up there is.
So on that plan there that you had, it was not buildable as well?
That back here was not buildable.
What about those,
I don't know. I know that this was buildable because that was in the cleared area.
yes,
So I don't know. Of course, all this is since been cleared too. Well, actually, all that's been cleared. Yeah, all that was cleared. So, I mean, you know, if I'd gotten if I lost 2 lots or 3 lots,
Any other questions from Mr. Shipwash? I'm
I
starting to
don't
lose.
think I'm gonna get the answer that I'm looking for here.
wait, I don't understand then.
Well, you're showing that you originally had proposed you were gonna build back in the area that I thought that gentleman said he couldn't use or build in. So is it buildable or not? That wooded area back there, that, to the back length of his property that you sold
No,
him?
but you see where the house was proposed from the engineer.
Yes.
Okay, that's where the house was
So
proposed.
those other lots off of that cul-de-sac back there were not supposed to have any houses in them?
No, that showed one there, one there, and one there. See?
Well, that was the question I'm asking.
Okay.
Is, you know, if he wanted to do a residential development back there, could he put houses back there? Or
On
was
his lot, no. He could, I'm sure, and Kurt and I went back there, he got a nice, somewhere, I don't even know where it is, but he got a nice little plateau back there. Cause that's where we talked about him building his house, running his driveway up the side, and then his septic tank's already in. Just running his septic tank to the field that's already there.
Okay. So there's very little limited use for this property other than the area that he's identified?
With what he's doing with it, yes.
Yes.
All right, any other questions for
No.
Mr. Shipwash?
No.
We're starting to confuse projects. Go ahead.
I just had one quick question. So this area that you have outlined here is larger than his area.
Yeah.
That's the one when you sold him and his friend. And so the current area, if I'm looking at the maps and drawing it up, if you go to the top right corner of 10 and pretty much draw a straight line down, that's the property he owns now. Is that correct?
16. It looks like a 10, it's a 16.
Oh, 60. I thought it was 10.
His lot runs like that.
Okay,
19.
okay.
And then, I guess his neighbor's lot runs like this. So Kurt goes all the way back and he goes over to the creek. I wish I'd brought
Gotcha.
that map with me, but I didn't.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak for or against this project? 2601. Sir, if you're going to speak, please come forward and state your name for the record. Thank you. That's all right.
My name is Thomas Honeycutt Jr. I live at 75 Home Run Alley, Benson, North Carolina. I've lived at this address for 24 years, but I've lived on our family farm within a half mile of Coach Crossroads for all of my 75 years. I have traveled back and forth along Highway 210 and Raleigh Road for about 60 years. I am retired now, but I am now, and for most of my career, have been a licensed professional engineer. I worked for 30 years as a state engineer for USDA Rural Development. And during that time, I was also the state environmental coordinator for the rural development for about 20 years now. I'm not applying for a job, and I'm not running for an office or anything, but I wanted to kind of share that background because some of the remarks, I think some of the remarks and comments I make, if you know sort of where I'm coming from, maybe you can put a little more confidence in those. Maybe they'll be a little bit more meaningful, okay? And that's the only reason I was relating my experience. And as you know, I have lived in that area all my life. Okay, my comments could be kind of categorized or put into three categories: non-compatibility of the rezoning, public safety considerations, and future considerations for this area and West Johnston High School. Now, Samantha and Steve, and I won't dwell on that, but they are absolutely correct. I rode Raleigh Road all the way from 301 to the end of it. There are no commercial developments except for that asphalt plant and the quarry. There's none at all along Raleigh Road, the entire length of it. Okay, and just as, I guess, a side note, I can tell you for a fact, because I grew up, I know Mr. Bruce Coase, and I grew up with his family. That lot was sold for residential development. It would have never been sold for commercial development. You can take that to the bank. Okay, now, I think I heard during the planning meeting some comments about this site being part of the overlay district for exit 319, that stuff, all that stuff up there around the interchange. And I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology or not, maybe it's mixed-use overlay district, but the property in question is not now part of the overlay district and realistically never should be. It cannot be contiguous to that district, in my opinion. There's a stream that flows along the backside of the property in question. In fact, that stream goes almost about halfway up to the exit 319 area. There's a wide swath of woods along that stream. Survey map shows riparian buffers along both sides of the stream. In my opinion, and I think Steve has said, I didn't know he had the wetlands delineated, but I can tell you there are wetlands back there all along the backside of Kirk's property and along the stream going up towards the interstate. And it's my opinion that there will never be any development along and adjacent to that stream that destroys or changes the wetland areas or riparian buffers. In other words, there is a natural barrier between this property and the exit 319 area that will always be there. It is my opinion that the property will never be contiguous to the development along the exit 319 area, and realistically, it should never physically be part of that overlay district. It really should not even be considered as part of the district. Okay, the next item or the next area I want to talk about was public safety. And it's already been mentioned that this was brought to you about 7 months ago as a commercial site for storing scaffolding and construction materials. Now, about 7 months later here, we're here with a request to rezone the property, this time for the interior storage of RVs up to 45 feet. This current proposal also has plans to construct warehouse buildings, this time supposedly for RVs. The first proposal, I believe, was denied, at least in part because of potential traffic concerns due to limited visibility in both directions from the site. and the traffic safety problems associated with large, very slow-moving vehicles trying to ingress and egress the site on a very busy two-lane road with narrow shoulders. Excuse me. Well, this issue has not changed. It may be even more of a concern now. It's a 45-foot self-contained RV or a 45-foot RV towed by a 3/4 or 1-ton truck is still a very slow-moving vehicle that very well could create traffic issues involved with trying to enter or exit a two-lane road with narrow shoulders. But as Steve said, now you could have inexperienced drivers operating these vehicles, trying to maneuver these vehicles into and off the road. Traveling northward along Raleigh Road from Coates Crossroads, there is a valley and a hill between the crossroads and the site in question. Coming along Raleigh Road southward from the West Johnston entrance, there's a hill and a blind curve just before you get to the site in question. There's limited visibility coming towards the site from both directions. In my opinion, the proposed site is very much a potential danger to traffic for any use that involves the ingress and egress of large, slow-moving vehicles onto this two-lane road. And please know that the main entrance and the only entrance to West Johnston High School is only about 1,200 feet from one of the driveways that would be installed if this request is approved. I would also note that the site we're discussing is in a low bottom area. It's a place where you can get the patchy fog that's often spoken of in weather forecasts. Also, I know from experience that the curvy area coming from the West Johnston entrance is an area where black ice forms. You hear about black ice in winter forecasts. And I tell you this based on, I've been up and down that road for 60 years. So it happens. In my opinion, if this request gets approved, there's just an accident waiting to happen involving large, slow-moving vehicles trying to leave or enter the site in question. And you know, that accident could involve students, staff, or visitors to West Johnston High School. It's not a matter of if the right circumstances come together for an accident. It's just a matter of time. Now, I would like to point out something else that will happen soon that will multiply the potential traffic dangers on Raleigh Road by at least 3 or 4 times. I don't believe this has been mentioned at all. There is a pending NCDOT project, number U6203, that will involve 4-lane Highway 210 between Coates Crossroads and McGee's Crossroads. This will include 4 lanes on Highway 10, 2 or 3 roundabouts, either widening the existing 210 bridge over 40 or building another bridge. Of course, reconfiguring all of the connections to the businesses, subdivisions, and so forth. I spoke just last week with an NCDOT public information officer. He told me this project is under design and construction will start within the next couple of years or so. And that's a major, major project. Widening 210 between Coates Crossroads and the east. What's going to happen? Excuse me just a second. When this project starts, people will quickly start taking detours to get on I-40 West, NC-50 North, and go to the McGee's Crossroads area. Now, I say I lived in that area all my life. I can tell you exactly where they're going to detour, how those detours are going to work, but they're not going to go up 210. I can assure you every one of the detours will involve traffic coming down Raleigh Road, past the rezoning site, and past the entrance to West Johnston High School. And I would estimate, because I've been in that line of traffic, I would estimate that about 70% of the people that come up NC 210 towards McGee's Crossroads are headed to I-40 West, NC 50 North, Anger, or just want to get to McGee's Crossroads area. Many, if not most of these, will be taking the detours but down Raleigh Road during the NC 210 construction project. And that's why I'm saying that the dangers that exist now will be multiplied by 3 or 4 or 5 times. And I think that probably, I think that project will last 2.5 to 3 years. And Raleigh Road is going to be terrible during that time. I dread it. I dread the traffic that's going to be coming down Raleigh Road when that 210 project gets started. And Raleigh Road, and especially West Johnston High School, does not need any more traffic problems or potential dangers than what is already on the way. Okay, future considerations. And this is real important. This is the most important thing that I want to bring out to you gentlemen and lady. The rezoning request asks for the site to be rezoned to commercial business and involves a request for approval for construction of up to 3 or 4 large warehouse buildings, which are presented as being for the interior storage of RVs. When I was at Rural Development, my career involved review of site plans, cost estimates, feasibility analysis, and so forth for many projects that involved the construction of metal buildings comparable to the ones proposed for this site. And I know, I thought I heard Kurt say there was 2 buildings, but if he's talking about 16 RVs, he's going to have more than 2 buildings the size that he quoted. Okay, the proposal you're being asked to approve did not make sense to me as a business venture. So I put together a preliminary cost estimate and a feasibility analysis. Using information I gathered on current prices, current financing scenarios, and some very conservative assumptions based on my past experience. I assumed only a 10% return on investment for this proposal. Using that scenario, in order to make this work as a successful business venture, the charge that would be required for a tenant leasing a space in the scenario of 1 building being constructed, that 1 building, 4 tenants, would be $3,375 a month. If all 4 buildings, or if all 16 tenants were in there, the cost would be about $2,100 a month. Now, these numbers could go up or down a little bit. I realize that. I agree, they're just preliminaries. But for comparison, there are 5 locations within a 4-mile radius of the site in question that offer storage of RVs. 5. If you expand that radius out to 6 miles, there are at least 2 more sites in the 40-42 area that offer storage for RVs. I have a list of these facilities. I've been to every one of them, and I've seen RVs of all types of sizes in every one of these. And then if you go out to Clayton and Smithfield, there's a dozen or more. Now, I inquired about charges for RV storage at these locations. I actually talked to 4 of them. I actually asked 4 of them, and all 4 of them gave me charges within a range of $85 to $120 a month for RV storage. Now, with these numbers in mind, you know, I'll say, I'm not going to say there may be people that have $1 million RV that would pay $2,100, $3,500 a month. This is my question to you. How many people in this community would rent an RV storage space in the facility for $2,100, $3,500 a month? And just suppose, suppose I'm 25% too high. How many people would pay $1,600 to $2,500 a month? How many people would pay this price when there are plenty of places available in the area to lease RV storage for $100 to $120 per month? And, is this a serious proposal, Victor? I'm looking at it from a business proposal, business venture. Is this a serious business venture? Okay. Now, I think you can come to your own conclusions. I don't think it'll make it as an RV site. I don't think it'll make it. There is no pent-up or unmet need for RV storage space in and around this community, especially inside storage. This facility proposed in the rezoning will absolutely not benefit the local community in any way. But please keep this in mind, and this is what I really want to get across. If this site gets rezoned as requested, if one or two or all of these warehouse buildings get built, say the RV proposal or RV storage proposal falls apart, if the property gets sold as commercial property, what do you think will happen to this site in the future? You're being asked to rezone this property as commercial property with up to 4, and I think 4 was what I saw on the site plan, 4 warehouse-type buildings, 50, 60 feet wide, 65, 70 feet long, 14-foot tall sides, 4 roll-up doors per building. Now, if approved for rezoning as requested, there could be 15,000 plus or minus square feet of warehouse space on this property in the future. And maybe I'm a little high, maybe it's 12,000. What do you think the future uses of this property will be if these buildings go up? I believe, and I think you will agree, they will be used for the bulk storage and distribution of construction materials, possibly landscape materials, various types of equipment, maybe even ag commodities or some other type of bulk materials. I believe the future uses of this site will involve the use of 18-wheelers and large box trucks to transport materials to and from the warehouses. This site could very well be back to the bulk insulation and scaffolding operation that was proposed in the first request. In my opinion, this site could easily become another eyesore in this community, in addition to creating serious traffic hazards. And there's no way to effectively screen this site from the subdivisions, because the subdivisions are up here. There's about a 20 or 25 foot drop down to the site. So to build a screen or fence, that would have to be about 35 feet high. Okay? Please consider this. If this site is rezoned as requested, the future uses of the site basically just have to fit within the approved uses for the zoning classification. The residents around the site, and to a large extent you folks, lose any real input as to what happens in the future at this site. The one and only entrance to West Johnston High School is only about 1,200 feet from this site. The distance at which a driver gets visual contact with the site when he or she, when they leave West Johnston, the point that they get visual contact with the site due to that blind curve is only about 500 or 600 feet from the site. During the 210 project between Coates Crossroads and McGee's Crossroads, the traffic on Raleigh Road will likely triple and maybe increase even more. If the rezoning is approved, there will very likely be tractor trailers, large box trucks, who knows what else, involved with the future traffic patterns at the West Johnston entrance. Because this, if these warehouses get built, they're not going to be used for, a gas station or a convenience store. They're going to be used to store bulk materials that's going to be brought there by large trucks. Now, if I were to ask each one of you, are you committed to the safety and well-being of the students, staff, and visitors at our public schools in Johnston County? I have absolutely no doubt I would get a resounding yes from every one of you. I have expressed to you what I feel are very realistic future concerns for Raleigh Road and the West Johnston High School area if this rezoning is approved. In my opinion, I believe this rezoning request is a definite opportunity for you to express your commitment for safety at and around our Johnston County public schools. Okay.
Mr. Honeycutt, can I pause you to say, I think we can safely say you're adamantly against this project. Is that a fair?
Yes, sir. And I just wanted to bring out some points
I
for you.
appreciate you've been very thorough.
I think you've been adequate.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job, and
All right.
if it's all right with you, we need to move on and hear some other things.
Absolutely.
You've got
I
something
understand
else to have
that.
to bring to the table. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else who'd like to speak for or against this project?
Tyler Worley, 6217 Raleigh Road, right across the street. I may have one short comment. We would like him just to build a house across the street. There's plenty of room. There's at least 2 acres of cleared space where he can build a house. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Worley. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name for the record.
All right, I am Karen Johnston. I live at 167 Jeans Way, and I am, Mr. Tommy has explained everything that we all feel as homeowners. Our biggest concern is you bought it as residential, and now you're trying to change it. We were here 6 months ago. It was denied. He tweaked it, and now we're back with a possible approval. That we don't understand. Nothing has changed. If anything, it has gotten worse. The traffic has gotten worse. It is at the bottom of a hill. So we call it Mustang Alley, some of us, because when you turn off of Raleigh Road, or 210 onto Raleigh Road, a lot of people hit their gas and they come over that hill. And when they come to the bottom of the hill, that's where the traffic is going to be coming in and out of that business. Let's see. Who is going to police this? He's already changed his mind one time as to said he was going to build a house, and now he's changing it to something else. If this gets approved for RV storage, who is to say when is he going to change it? He can obviously change it and become a different business, which was what he intended the first time we were here. Who's going to police this? Is it going to be left up to us as neighbors to stand up and say, hey, are we going to be calling you again in 3 months saying, oh, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, they're moving stuff in, there's no RV. It just doesn't make sense to me why we're back here again. And the last thing I'll leave with is there are numerous places within a mile to, as far as Mr. Honeycutt said, that is already zoned commercial. Why not go there? Why did you buy residential and then all of a sudden trying to change it? And it will change our property value. It will not affect him. He's going to make money off of it. We're going to lose our property value because of what he's trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else who'd like to speak on or for or against, come forth.
Hi.
Please state your name for the record, please.
My name is Jackie Vale. I live at 151 Jeans Way, and these are my children. This is Tyler, age 15,
Hi there.
and this is Ryan, age 12.
Hey there.
So we're strongly against this project. We were here 7 months ago to present this, and it's changed and been tweaked slightly. But my biggest concern, reflective of everybody that's been discussed already, is the safety. Number one is the safety of our children. So I'm just asking you, if this was your family, how would you want to present this, and how would you want this to be done? So here's the situation we have. I have my son who's 15. He's learning how to drive, and it's already dangerous enough to pull out of Raleigh Road. It's an insanely terrible blind spot. I believe earlier you said 4,600 folks are going up and down Raleigh Road every day. Is that correct? Is that roughly about what it is? I think that's what the measurement was. At any rate, close enough. So anyway, the traffic is only going to get worse. So even talking to my son who's trying to learn how to drive, it is incredibly dangerous to pull in and out of that road as it is. He also goes to West Johnston High School, where he walks home from school right now until he gets his driver's license. So now he's walking across the street from the other side of the neighborhood, across Raleigh Road, to my home at the end of the cul-de-sac of Jeans Way. And then we have my son, who's 12 years old, and he sits at the bus stop and waits for his bus at the intersection of Raleigh Road. And so now we have the safety of the concerns of the children. We have to think about the safety and the traffic of what's going on here. So we have one that's going to be going to West Johnston pretty soon. We have one that's going to be driving. And Mr. Honeycutt said it very well. Traffic getting in and out of that neighborhood and into West Johnston is a nightmare already as it is. And I can't even imagine how much worse it's going to get. So as a parent, one of my biggest concerns obviously is safety. I expressed all the concerns with that, and I'm just asking you, like, as a single mom, I chose this house in this neighborhood in the subdivision because of the safety, the quietness. Everybody knows each other, and I wanted to keep it that way. It was zoned AR40 and residential, and I'd like for it to stay that way, and that's what we bought it for, and this is an investment. So I'm just respectfully asking you guys to consider the long-term impacts of the neighborhood safety, traffic, quality of life, and everything like that. And as Karen said, who's going to police this? How is this going to be enforceable? When we were here 7 months ago, it didn't go his favor, and put rain barrels outside of his yard and spray painted outsider, and fires a shotgun all nights, all hours of the night, all day and all night. My kids are trying to play in this neighborhood. It already says to me that if he doesn't get his way, what's going to happen next? And I don't foresee that this is something that's going to be maintained in the way that he expresses that it's going to be. I think that this is an opportunity for him to sell it for commercial property down the road. Obviously, it's going to be, 7-8 times more than the value of what he paid for it. So I think this is a personal motivation for him. And it's definitely going to be a deficit for our community. So I'm asking for the sake of these children and all of the other safety concerns that have been addressed, that if this was your family and these were your children, what would you decide to do and what would be in the best interest of you and your families? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Booth.
Thank you.
Good luck with the driving.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else would like to speak for or against? Come forward, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, y'all. My name is Matthew Quiet, 156 Jeans Way.
Say your last name again, sir. I'm sorry.
Quiet, like
Shh. Okay. All right, Mr.
that's
Quiet.
E-T, not T-E, quite.
That's right.
Quite
got you.
last name.
All right, so a lot of people have spoke about all the things that, and I don't know Kurt at all, but I moved into the neighborhood and I did my due diligence to make sure that everything around me was zoned ag residential. And that was part of my process, right? That's my due diligence. And you all hopefully did that when you bought your land or your houses. The question that I always sit back and say is, how would you all feel if tomorrow someone tore down their house and said, hey, right next to you, I'm putting up a bunch of barns, or I'm gonna put up metal buildings. In fact, this is what Kurt's done. He's got 18-wheelers sitting on the back of the property right now. I don't know if y'all can all see this, right? But he's got those, and he's got a bunch of flatbed on the property as well. And this is just taken from the backyard. So this is what people are already seeing. And here's the shed that he put up already. And this is what he says he's gonna put more up. The problem is, it's about as long as an 18-wheeler. So if you're talking 45-foot RVs, you're gonna get one in a building. You're not getting 4, so you need much bigger buildings. Everything about this is dishonest, right? I don't buy my land and change my mind. No one does that unless there's intent. Maybe residential land was sold very inexpensively, I don't know. But then to flip it into commercial, and then you all lose control, so when his project fails again, he can then say, oh, I'm gonna sell it and sell 4 pads. And you've already heard people mention that tonight. I think at the end of the day, I know you've got You're trying to keep ag, I saw it up there and safety as some of your principles, right? Well, this is ag, and you're about to flip it. The other part to this too is, you're here for the constituents. There's a room full of people. There's 15 people out in the hall who can't come in here who are all against this. And there's only one person for this. And as mentioned earlier, it won't be profitable. So there's an alternative potential there too, and you need to consider it. There's a lot of factors that go into this, and this is not straightforward. Because if it was straightforward, there would have been a house built there years ago. And this just sounds shady. And then the next lot, the guy will probably come to you and ask you to do the same thing, because he refuses to build too. So there's a lot to consider here. And I really do appreciate your time, your deep consideration, and thinking about all the families here. That's just one with kids. There's a bunch of them in the neighborhood. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak about this particular case? Come forth and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, I am Crystal Butler, and I live in the Bruce Diamond subdivision. I agree with all of my neighbors that I'm fully against this as well. My biggest concern is the property that Matt just talked about that's adjacent to his. What will they do with that? They haven't built yet, and my concern is we'll be back here again opposing the same type of proposal. Outside of the security concerns, the traffic, even last week, I almost could not get out the subdivision because traffic was backed up. That's a big concern. And like they said, with the way the road goes, it dips right there, traffic and the snow, like ice, and it rains. So hopefully you guys will consider, lady and gentlemen, will consider our proposal to not let this go forward for our community, for our neighborhood, and so that we can, so our property values won't be affected either. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Anyone else who would like to speak on this case? Come forth, sir, and please state your name for the record.
My name's Kenny Schwartz. I live at 181 Jeans Way, and I just want to let you know I'm against it. I have a 16-year-old who goes to West Johnston, and I would hate to get that call that he got hit by a camper or slammed into another car. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyway, hang on just a second. There's someone else coming. Please,
Good evening.
Please state your name for the record, ma'am.
My name is Brookie Honeycutt. I live at 75 Home Run Alley, which is adjacent to the properties that have been mentioned. I can't believe I'm here again, considering the first board meeting. And I just want to remind everyone here of the county government's mission, which is to seek to enhance the quality of life for the present and future generations. And my concern, I spoke to you before about the safety. As principal at West Johnston High School, I am well aware of all the safety issues, and I have seen more than I needed to see concerning traffic and wrecks involving children and young adults. But my concern now is largely with the future of this property and what's going to happen with it. As has been stated, the potential for resale, the potential for it being different than what is being planned or proposed. I want to ask, how many of you knew Mr. Bruce Coates? Any of you knew him? Well, I considered him to be Mr. Cleveland. He loved the community. He loved the area. This was his property. And I think he would be pleased to know that there were homes there, children playing, hearing them, instead of metal buildings. And there's not enough shrubbery at Smith's Nursery to make that appealing at all. And keeping this a residential community and preserving the integrity of residents in Johnston County, I think, is one of your primary jobs as commissioners. And I appreciate what you do. And I completely understand the difficulty of your task in doing that. And I do thank you for your time and your effort in hearing this and helping us with this issue. And whether I state it or not, I think you can determine that I am against this proposal. Thank you.
Ms. Honeycutt. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else, sir? Please state your name for the record, sir.
Andy Evans, 21 Jeans Way.
Say your last name again, sir.
Evans.
Evans. Thank you.
I come tonight talking about this proposal for rezoning. Is number one, it's an agriculture farm zone. It's really not for commercial. There's nothing in the area. We all pay taxes. We try to keep our houses as nice and neat as we can. We know that taxes goes up every year. We get something of a commercial status. And you're breaking precedent, but if this gets allowed, it'd be the first one to be allowed, and the neighbor next door could say, hey, let me put up the same thing. The neighbors that are adjoining to this property have no way to block this off, to keep the noise, keep the view, because the buildings are so high. One of my biggest things is the traffic on this road. I live right next to it, and you might as well call it a dragway on this area. We call the law a law. It's a 45-mile-an-hour zone. I have a 14-year-old child that rides the school bus, and he can only get on the bus one way, coming from west to east. The bus can't stop going east to west because of the hill. Many times we pull out of this subdivision, and you don't have no room, no time to react. People slam on brakes and almost rear end. Being a two-lane road also, I don't see how in the world these big RVs can turn in coming from west to east without having a turn lane. Again, it's hard for me to support anything, especially when they're trying to bring down what our residential area is, especially, again, as you put up barrels and say you're an outsider and spray paint it. If you want to try to win someone over, kill them with kindness. Don't try to make them feel bad. I'm just worried about my son mostly, and trying to keep our area safe as we can, because there is a lot of traffic. And I wish you would consider this proposal as not being a fit, and if he wants to put in commercial, there's plenty of opportunities on 210 Highway, but as long as we're in a residential farming area, I feel like we need to keep it that way and keep it as it was intended.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak on this project? Yeah, we got one more, okay. Welcome, sir. Come please state your name for the record. Thank you.
James Harvey, 16 Tupelo Trail, right around the corner from the location that's in question.
Okay.
Just would like to say my son lives on Raleigh Road, the subdivision down that we're in question about. And every time I go over there, morning or afternoon traffic is just terrible. And like the lady said before, I can only imagine someone trying to learn how to drive and have to pull out of driveways. And also my church is on that road also. And I'm here on behalf of them to say, whenever we have people leaving out of church, day or night, it's unsafe right now. They need to clear a path to the left, and you can't do anything about the blind curve. So it's a safety issue. I wouldn't want to see RVs, slow-moving vehicles coming up and down the highway. I don't think it would be safe for anyone. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Got another gentleman coming. Welcome, sir. Come please state your name for the record.
William Ruffin, Deacon, Johnston Chapel.
Okay.
I was down here maybe 3 or 4 months ago with the same situation, and nothing had changed. Except for I'm a little late. I don't like to be late. I missed what the guy was bringing up across the table about what they were going to do. But the only thing I heard so far was he was going to try to change something. But for the love of money is the root of all evil. Safety in the community. The young lady came here with her 2 boys a while ago and said her boys walked to school. They got more nerves than I have over there. Cross that street. Go up and down that street. Before I go any further, most of y'all are familiar with that place, right? 210 and Cleveland School. The Raleigh Road. From 12 o'clock to about 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon. It is tremendous. You can't get through there. No kind of way. And I hate to say it, if emergency vehicles had to go through there, there ain't enough room to get off the road for them to get through there. If you in trouble, you sick, you in trouble. I'm more concerned about safety, like one of the guys said. I've been over there most of my life. And I belong to that church. I've been in that church about 35, 40 years. And it ain't getting no better. So I'm totally against it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Fair.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Hugh Spears. I'm also a member of Johnston Chapel Church, right down below the hill of said property. And I'm also a retired commercial driver, 30-plus years experience driving 18-wheelers. And that road ain't got no business having an 18-wheeler on it, much less trying to make a turn off of it. And I'm more concerned with the welfare of people in and out, not only the neighborhood, but people that's coming in and out of our church, because we do have church services during the week as well. And so it's, you gotta have your head on a swivel as it is, just to get out of our parking lot, much less adding a commercialized building there that's got commercial trucks coming in and out. And we know that everybody sees a 18-wheeler. First, two things you want to do. Either you want to get in front of it real fast, or you want to get behind it and hope he'll speed up. Neither one of those are happening. So, in all fairness, whenever you buy something, you buy it as it is. So why buy it and then try to change it in the middle of the stream? That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Okay. Anyone else? Everybody's good. Okay. All right. Anything else for, let's see, let me see where we are here.
May I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I'll keep it quick. Obviously, heard a lot of stories, but I have live footage of my property, and there is absolutely no trailers, no semi-trailers. This is live. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, this time I'll close the public discussion portion of the hearing, and I'll ask our planning director to please come forth and summarize and present the planning board's recommendation.
Yes, sir. As it relates to case 26-01, planning board recommendation is approval with the listed conditions, items number 1 through 13, which would limit the use of the property and place conditions with regard to physical development.
All right. This time, any questions for the planning director?
Preston, could you go over the process if this, because it's conditional zoning, if it were to be approved, would it stay commercial? It would only be, I just want for everyone to understand, would it only be allowed to be this, or would it just go straight commercial?
It's not straight commercial, so the underlying district would be the general business, but it would be a conditional zoning district. Conditional zoning district means it is subject to the conditions as approved and agreed upon by the applicant. So the applicant has to give written consent to these conditions. This first condition here is that it would be only for the indoor storage of recreational vehicles. Any change of tenant or occupancy would have to come back before this board into where it would change that use.
Okay, thank you.
And the change of tenant, change of occupancy we do monitor that on a regular basis with all properties in county jurisdiction.
I did have a question. This may be for Mr. Newton or maybe Ms. Slusser even. I guess under our current land use plan, this area is in the regional mixed use center. And just looking at what's in our agenda, it says these areas are intended to be centers of activity that include a mix of retail, restaurant, service, office, and civic and institutional uses. And really the only one I see here that may come close is service. I was going to ask, do we have a formal definition of what falls under a service use?
Not sure I could give you a formal definition. I could give you examples. So examples would be where you're providing, once again, a service, something to the person which isn't necessarily tangible, not providing a good such as garments, apparel, auto parts or anything of that nature. You're providing a service. In this case,
RV storage.
The service would be RV storage of RVs, no different than if you were storing, if it was an open storage lot and they were storing utility trailers or vehicles offside or whatnot.
Right. And I guess, Ms. Slusser, is that, you concur with?
Yes, sir, and the service is not defined in the UDO.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. All right. Any other questions for the planning director? Hearing none, what are the wishes of the board? Let me ask the applicant, have you looked over the conditions and are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have one more question.
No, sir, we've closed the public hearing. I appreciate it, though. Thank you. That's all right. Thank you.
I did have one more clarification question for Braston. On the GIS, the purple dash lines, is that delineating what we are saying is in the long-term use plan? Not to put you on the
So-
spot to know the entire legend of our GIS, but
I'm assuming you are speaking of the zoning map here? So actually, no, this is actually the zoning map, means the existing zoning of each parcel, those dash lines, which is that circle. It's, in this situation, it's a circle on this side. That dash line is the overlay district for the interstate highway interchange overlay.
okay.
So the residential, the place type you're referring to, which is the land use plan, does extend to this property. From, that is the place type that was mentioned in the staff report, which is that regional mixed-use center. So that extends and goes beyond the interchange of 210 and I-40 and then stretches out in a broad range.
Thank you.
And that's a future land use place type. It's not a current land use place type.
My concern about all this is the land was bought 8 years ago when it was zoned RA then. And all the people who bought and built houses around there knowing that it was all RA, you know, if they built beside a pig farm, they knew it was a pig farm. But they knew all their neighbors were RA and expected it to be that way. And the fact that there's no business all along this road tends to make me believe it ought to stay RA.
Yeah, I would, will you go ahead and keep talking?
Yes, sir.
All right, well,
Yes,
I'm going to
sir.
keep
Go
talking.
ahead.
A couple things for us, I think, to consider. There are three criteria that we're looking for in there, and that's consistency with the comprehensive plan. And then based on the definition of, are the examples given for a service, I believe that this use probably falls into that regional mixed-use center under service. However, the other two give me, is where I have my heartburn, is this in the public interest? And I don't own an RV, so I'm not sure, but I know that the public in the immediate area seems to be
That's right.
totally against this. And then, and the third thing is reasonableness, and that's based on size. There's several things in here, but a couple that stand out to me. It says the benefits and detriments to the neighbors and the surrounding community, the relationship between the current actual, which is AR, and permissible development on the tract. So to me, I have trouble with it meeting two out of the three. I think that they have a hard time, after what I've heard from the neighbors, that this is not something they consider beneficial to their property, and in fact being a detriment. And I think there are other things, and I will say, I don't know what use will be less intrusive than this. I can't imagine that there's, even if you put a house or two houses there, you're probably going to see more trips per day in and out of that driveway versus people coming and getting an RV and taking it off. So I think, you know, in the grand scheme of things, the use is probably, it's not going to get much less intense than that. But however, with what we're given to work with, I have issues and do not think it meets the criteria for a conditional zoning in general business for the reason it doesn't meet the public interest, and also under reasonableness, particularly with detriments to the neighbors and surrounding community.
And if I could add a few more things, as an RV owner myself, I don't have anything against RV storage areas. In fact, I think that they're needed. I don't think this is a particularly good spot for one. Also, the proposed building at 50 by 64, there's no way, unless we're only taking pop-up campers or something, can fit 8 RVs in there. I would say at most RV doors, roll-up doors, are 12 by 14. That's how big to get in. So if you have a moderately, I mean, if you have a 36-foot or a 40, 45, it's going to take the entire length. So at most you could get four RVs in one of those buildings. So I don't really kind of buy that part of the plan. And the other thing is the fact where it is located, surrounded by residential on every side. I think I agree with the landowners that they bought land there because it was residential, and they like to keep it that way. And I think that it is, as Butch said, is not in the public interest in this particular case.
Any other discussion from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt a statement of consistency, a resolution that the use is not in the public interest, and further that use is not consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
The request is denied. All right. Moving on to item number 4. We'll give everyone a chance to relocate. Item number 4 is capital improvements plan update. Kyle Lutz from Davenport and Company is here to present. Have we lost Kyle?
He's up. I'll get him.
Kyle is here somewhere. I saw him.
He had lost in there still here.
Okay, there he comes.
Say that 8 left.
Our sheriff is earning their money tonight, just opening the door.
Yeah.
You're on, sir.
Yep.
All right. Yes, sir, welcome. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, nice to see you all this evening as always.
Yep.
Is that on? Okay, very good. Red light threw me off a little bit, looking for a green light, but again, nice to see everyone. So Kyle Laux with Davenport, the county's financial advisor. My colleague Austin Sachs back there as well, give part of this presentation. Really asked to be here tonight as a bit of a refresher on the concept of the county's CIP, or Capital Improvements Program. And so we'll do some of that, give you a little background, also some good news to report insofar as some rating results and a couple very successful bond issues within just the last couple weeks. Just as, again, some background, hot off the presses for you as a board, and then we'll get into the details of the CIP itself. But again, as the county's advisor, our role and our job here is to be working with you as a board, certainly your excellent staff, in terms of thinking about these long-term planning types of concepts. This evening we'll talk about the capital side of that, which is the CIP. Important in all of that is it's you as a board coming up with those priorities, running that through your staff, and so we are reacting to that, and putting those into a plan and some numbers that, as you think about this with the budget process, is always amendable by the board. And so a plan is just that. It is not set in stone, but is intended to be a guide for you as a board, as a county, in terms of where you may be going with the CIP. So we last talked about this in the cooler months. It was February. It's now technically June now, so happy spring to everybody. And so really here's an update on all those things. So in terms of the presentation itself, we'll go over a couple things. We'll talk about the county's current credit ratings. Again, we have good news there, just recently reaffirmed, as board chair, as members of the board know, in those discussions with the rating agencies went very well. And so the county's 2 AAA credit ratings were recently affirmed. We've got some of their commentary here, just came out within the last couple weeks. We'll talk a little bit about some financial trends. In addition to the CIP, it's obviously the budget process, budget time period. And so we've got a couple observations there, as we now have the 25 audit, which we didn't back in February. We have a couple observations there. You should think about that audit. the fund balance and so forth and so on. I'll talk a little bit about some peer comps, meaning peer comparisons. Certainly you as a county and the board need to run Johnston County in the way that seems best for the county residents, but it's useful to have some outside data and look at what other AAA local governments are doing, so we'll give you a little bit of that. And then we'll get into the debt profile and talk about the CIP. So I'll try and move relatively quickly and certainly jump in where you have questions. On page number 3, in terms of the credit ratings, you all as a board know this, a very hard achievement, but one is very well deserved for the county. You have 2 AAA credit ratings. Both of those credit ratings, one from Moody's, one from Standard & Poor's, which we shortened to S&P, were affirmed within the last 30 or so days. What that means is at least on an annual basis, these rating agencies are supposed to check in with the county, supposed to look at your financials, look at the economic profile, and understand where those trends are going and say, okay, are we still in that AAA, which is the highest possible we can be? The answer to that question is yes. We'll give you some of that commentary and why they said that. And again, that's both exciting and helpful for the recent bond issues, but also gives us some good guidance in terms of both the budget and the CIP going forward. In terms of the actual commentary from these 2 rating agencies, we'll start with Moody's. It's a public report. We haven't written the whole thing down here, but tried to just give you and the public a little bit of a summary of what they've said. So top of the page there, Moody's has assigned a AAA rating to Johnston County, North Carolina. So most importantly, they affirmed that AAA, which again is the highest possible you can have. Most notably, the county recently sold about $129 million for Clayton High School, about $67 million of GO bonds for school projects, and refinanced some debt. And so all of those were very well received in the marketplace. Interest rates on all those well below 4%. And a primary driver of your ability to do that and sell those bonds competitively was those affirmed AAA ratings here. So we just make that sort of hot off the presses. Just last week, the Clayton High School bonds sold very, very successfully in the public credit markets. 2 other notes we'll make on this page. They talk about a stable outlook. When they assign these ratings, they can give you a stable outlook or a positive or a negative. Because we are AAA, can't go any higher, so there's no positive outlook there. They do give us a stable outlook, which is certainly helpful. One other point we'll make at the bottom of this page, factors that could lead to an upgrade. You're at the highest possible credit rating, so there are no factors that lead to an upgrade. You're at the tippy top that you can be. The factors that could lead to a downgrade, while we're not concerned about those in the short run, they do give us a little bit of sort of guideposts in terms of what to be thinking about. You see that first sub-bullet under the downgrades. They say a sustained trend of structural imbalance leading to reserves below 35% of revenue. As we keep moving through the presentation, keep thinking through the budget process, you're well above that in terms of your reserve position. But we know that as part of a plan, we're probably going to draw that reserve position down over time. Moody's here has given us a nice marker, not that's the only thing they're looking at, but a nice marker in terms of that 35%, whereas we really are thinking about being 40 plus. So we've let them know that. They've given us that sort of outside guidepost. So again, we just point that out. S&P or Standard & Poor's, again, AAA from Standard & Poor's. They had some very nice commentary as well. They talk about the robust economic growth, history of positive financial results, and the ample reserve position. So again, those same themes that we've talked about, whereby the economy, the financial results being annual surpluses, and very strong reserves. I think that's going to continue to be the case. You see there at the bottom, management practices they believe are integrated into the financial and operational practices. So again, we're here again tonight because there is this sort of routine that you as a board have. The rating agencies see and understand that to go through multi-year planning and think about not just what is happening in next year's budget, but what is happening in years thereafter. And again, they expect those practices to continue with you as a board and certainly with your excellent staff as well. On page 6, we'll give just a little bit of history We talked about this particular chart back in February. The only thing we've added here is 2025 with the audit now in hand. As you think about that February presentation, the board retreat, one theme for you as a county and most of your peers is that the margins of the last several years have thinned. Not that they're negative, but certainly as you look at your revenues in the county, that's that blue line versus the expenditures in the green line. Coming out of that COVID pandemic for a lot of different reasons, you had a very good time period there of annual surpluses, substantial annual surpluses. That certainly was a boon to the county. But by virtue of things normalizing, maybe in terms of revenue growth and expenditure growth, we have seen that margin, if you will, the gap between the blue line and the green bars narrow a little bit. Still positive, but it's not as robust as it was in years past. We'll just point that out as you go through this FY27 budget planning process, just being mindful of the need to make sure those recurring revenues are covering recurring expenditures. That's what we call a structurally balanced budget. That leads into the next page, which is fund balance. Again, we've talked a lot about this and the importance of that fund balance to the rating agencies. Sir?
Excuse me one thing. Go back to that previous slide,
Yep.
Kyle, please. If you look at the closeness of the revenue stream and the green bars, as long as we got the reserves in place, that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it, going forward?
Correct. Correct. I think the fact that that blue bar, it's kind of hard to see there, it's still above the green lines, and so you still have a positive there, and that's what the agencies really want to see in terms of you're bringing in more revenue than you're sending out in expenditures. I think it's reasonable to expect that it's not going to have the gap that it did the last 4 or 5 years, just such an unusual 4 or 5 years. And to your point, if indeed you do have those reserves as a buffer, having a little bit thinner in terms of the margins is not necessarily a positive, not necessarily a negative, but it gives you that flexibility to kind of manage the budget, manage through surprises as well. What they worry about are the surprises. And so the fact you've got good reserves helps to manage through those surprises.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Then on page 7, again, to that fund balance trend, we've shown here, going back to that 2012 time period, a number of years. And so we've seen a very nice progression upwards. On the right-hand graph, your policy is in that yellow bar. We're well above that policy, but really the stated intent to the board, as we understand it, is to remain well above that policy. We will note between 24 and 25, it's the first time that we've seen that fund balance start to dip a little bit. Not a surprise. That's part of the plan. And so you as a board, obviously working with your excellent staff, have been working on that plan very detailed the last several years. But we do note that trend whereby we've come up, and like we've talked about in the past, you're starting to head back down a little bit. We just want to be mindful of that downhill slope. But given where you are relative to your policy, we're not worried about that level in the short run here. We'll give you just a little bit of, as we called there, peer comparisons, looking at how you at Johnston County compare to your AAA neighbors across the state and nationally as well. I think what you see there, if we are up in the 60s in terms of that percentage, the AAA medians there are in and around the 40% range. And so if you, over time, are sort of working down to that level, again, you're going to be right in line with many of your peers, knowing that as we get back to the presentation, part of the reason you have that fund balance right now is you're going to be going through what is a substantial capital investment program period, and so some portion of that will be used to help with that process. In terms of tax-supported debt service, we just like to maybe just show this graph on the right-hand side. You have a conservatively managed debt profile, meaning that all of your debt is fixed rate. It's paid in annual installments, much like a fixed-rate mortgage. And what you see in that right-hand graph is a very nice decline. And so as we work with your staff, with Chad and others on these projections, what you start with is a position whereby the debt service is trending down naturally, and that just helps to implement future CIP, minimizing the impact of the budget. That's a good thing. Other point we'll make here is you have a 66% payout ratio. You have a policy there, we want that to be no less than 50. What that's really measuring is to make sure we're not pushing principal out into future generations. So it's a balancing act in terms of the CIP. That payout ratio tells us we're not pushing things out too far, but are leveraging responsibly and appropriately what you have in terms of your debt capacity. On the topic of debt capacity, on page number 10, looking at your two most critical debt policies. Left-hand side is debt versus assessed value. The right-hand side is debt service versus the budget. So we'll start with that left-hand graph. Your policy is to be no less than 4%. By virtue of your tax base growth, the reassessments, revaluations, et cetera, you're well below that policy. So you have very strong capacity relative to that debt versus assessed value. On the right-hand side is debt service versus the budget. That's more of a cash flow measurement, how many pennies out of every dollar in the budget you're going to make a debt service payment. Our policy right now is to be no more than 20%. We're hovering around 10, 12%. We're going to show you these projections with the CIP incorporated. So we have good capacity, not unlimited, but good capacity. We're going to layer in the CIP when Austin talks here and show you what that looks like after new projects are added in. In terms of peer comparisons, again, just for reference, you see where you are. This graph is actually before the most recent reassessment. So as you're looking at that, your bar is going to come way down by virtue of the increased values there. And you'll be much more in line with the national AAA median and even below the North Carolina AAA median. Debt service to expenditures at around 11%. This will actually trend up over time, again, pending the results of the CIP. That's not a surprise. That's why we do this planning, and we demonstrate that to the rating agencies as we talk to them. And so you see the Wakes of the world, Union counties, other fast-growing counties, not unusual to be even 15, 20% in terms of this ratio. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about the CIP. Again, just an update and a recommendation we have for you as a board and as a county to implement this really as a roadmap. As I said before, it is not intended to be necessarily set in stone, always at the board's discretion to be able to move projects and priorities, but it does give a very good roadmap, gives good information to the markets, to the rating agencies, in terms of where you intend to go over the next 5 years. And so what you'll see in there are the major projects that, as we understand it, you as a board have identified. It's not every project. And so as Austin is talking, here in a couple pages, we'll show you the numbers and the specific projects in there. We're also aware there's going to be a series of additional projects. They aren't on the list technically yet, meaning in terms of numbers, but we do want to be mindful that especially in a fast-growing county like yours, there's always going to be something else to be thinking about, which is why, again, you do the multi-year planning that you do. So with that, I think we'll go over there. I'm going to turn it over to Austin here on page 15 to kind of walk you through the details of what's in here and the numbers, again, as a refresher versus where we were back in February.
Thanks, Kyle, and good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Austin Sachs, just for the intro there. Like Kyle said, before going into the numbers, just wanted to make an acknowledgement here of the project within, call it the first 5 years of the initial pass of the CIP here, and that's in the highlighted green rows of the table. And then below that, just listed alphabetically, are just other, call it identified capital priorities, not with a specific timeline in mind, maybe not within the first 5 years, but just other projects to be considered when you think about a 10, 15, 20-year time period. Those projects can be accelerated, deferred, up to the board's discretion, but just really wanted to add that level of transparency acknowledgement. And so if we flip the page here, what we're really taking a look at on this page is sources and uses on an annual fiscal year basis in terms of the identified capital projects in the first 5 years. They are preliminary, subject to change, and they will be revisited on an annual basis. But like we note in the second bullet point there, these are the debt-financed projects for the county. And so what you'll notice is not only it has all the projects listed on the prior page, but we also acknowledge the school projects in terms of the 2022 referendum, 24 referendum, those first two rows. Just noting that there are amounts that have not been issued from those referendums and will need to be taken on or issued at a subsequent time, and we'll kind of go into the debt timing on the following page. In addition to that, we have the Clayton High School financing, like Kyle had mentioned, had very successful results there. And then in addition, we've got some EMS stations, DSS building, and a courthouse annex out in FY 2030. We'll make mention, these are estimates, some architect estimates, some best estimates from county staff, but kind of our best guess at this moment in time. But as we kind of move each year throughout the process, imagine those estimates will become better known and kind of more complete picture. Last thing I'll note on this page is you might not see anything in 2031. That doesn't mean there is nothing in 2031. It just means kind of to be completed. Each year it gets called a little bit more fuzzy as you go out into the planning, but by no means it's not that we don't expect the county to have any capital projects in that year, but it's up to the board's discretion to fill that in as we get closer over time. If we move to slide 17 here, so on the prior page, that was, call it, looking at on an appropriation basis, and so kind of as you approve projects as they come up on a yearly basis, what this page is really showing us is our best estimate, thinking about the cash flows and the expenditures of those projects, when the actual debt issuances would need to take place in order to fund those projects, make sure they continue to move along. I will note that because of the county's very healthy reserves, it gives you a lot of flexibility and contingency. And so we don't need to stick to a specific time frame for these debt issuances, but this is our best estimate. And so in FY 26, so like Kyle mentioned, we had a couple of successful issuances for the county. Between the referendum GOs, about $67 million, and the Clayton High School financing in the amount of $129 million, call it $196 million in total. And then you can see as we progress throughout the years, it's kind of an every other year in terms of a limited obligation borrowing, kind of the county's appropriation-backed borrowing, and that really gives the county, call it incremental bites of the apple, and we have the ability to course correct as we move forward with this plan to really fine-tune those numbers and course correct over time. And as referenced on the previous page, there's nothing in 2031 right now. We don't expect that to be the case. There are things, of course, coming on down the pipe here, and we imagine that to be filled out as we get closer. On page 18 here, so Kyle had showed these ratios and what they look like with the county's existing debt profile. And so what we've done here is taken those proposed debt issuances and layered those on to the county's existing debt profile to give a projection of what these ratios may look like over time. And so this incorporates the entirety of the 5-year CIP with conservative assumptions. And I think what you see is on the left-hand side in terms of debt to assessed value, the county continues to have significant capacity relative to that ratio. Like Kyle mentioned, yes, sir?
Let me ask you, Kyle, why is the assessed value relevant here in this particular ratio? I mean, you know, if we get a reevaluation, the economic condition of the county, of the taxpayers, hadn't changed any. You know, all of a sudden on paper, they're just worth a lot more money. But in terms of cash flow and that sort of thing, I just question why is the assessed value a pertinent part of that ratio?
It's a very good question. I think if you go into the county's past, this is call it a tighter policy. The county's obviously had a lot of growth over, call it the last 5 to 10 years. And so while there's more capacity now, the size of capital projects will continue to adjust for inflation. And I think there may be an opportunity to reduce that policy. But I think from the rating agency standpoint, they'll continue to look at this ratio and how you compare relative to your peers.
Well, I'm thinking through my own question now, and perhaps where it's relevant is because of growth, not because of inflation.
I'll jump in real quick. The other reason is that your primary revenue source as a local government is from those property taxes, not your only one. And so that's one, meaning that ratio is one they use across the country to compare on an apples-to-apples basis. So it's not like it's
There's nothing
not
else,
the only thing.
it's a relative value.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Helps them to compare on a relative basis, and it is your primary revenue driver.
Thank you.
Very good question. And then I think on the right-hand side, what you see is called the tighter of the two ratios in terms of debt service versus budget. And you can see if we're right now in between 10, 12%. If the CIP progresses kind of as it's laid out, we see that inching up into the 15, 16%. But I think what I will say on that ratio is we try to be conservative in terms of budget growth for the county as well as the interest rate assumed for the debt into the future. We flip to slide 19. So we're talking about debt capacity, so our ability to incur this debt and remain in compliance with policies and best practices. The other side of the coin is debt affordability. And so that is really the county's ability to take on these debt service payments within the county's budget. And as you see in call it the middle of the page there, county staff does a phenomenal job with financial reporting on a monthly basis, tracking those cash flows, and they also do a great job of laying out a multi-year financial model to kind of give the trend and trajectory of where the county's finances are heading. One of the primary inputs of that multi-year financial modeling is the county's fund balances, call it the most important financial metric of the county. And so what we're going to take a look at on the following page is just a projection at a high level using some conservative assumptions of the trend of that fund balance. Consider that a good proxy for affordability. Are we able to take on our recurring expenditures as well as these additional debt service payments and maintain a strong fund balance? And so on slide 20 here, so these are estimates, but I think what you'll see here is as we progress forward here, you'll see a slight decrease in the projected fund balance ratio, percentage in relation to budget. And so I think two things to point out there. We are assuming in these projections that the county's budget grows. And so while the county may have surpluses in these years, if it's not keeping up with the growth of the budget, that's how you can see a decrease on a percentage basis. And I think the other thing that we'll point out here is I think the real long-term trajectory and the keyword I think would be stability. So we'd like to see that the county's fund balance stabilize in that 40% range plus or minus. And so when we take a look at this, I don't think it's any cause for alarm right now, not at all. And so I think we just continue to monitor this, evaluate it, and see how the county's CIP evolves over time and how the economics of the county continue. So I think at a point in time right now, the county's in great financial shape. As we look at these projections, the county continues to be in strong financial position, and we'll continue to monitor this into the future. And I think with that, we've just got some high-level next steps here in terms of budget adoption and following that with formalizing the CIP. And so with that, happy to answer any questions y'all may have and appreciate the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
I have a question I'd like to ask.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
A lot of this is predicated on the ability to manage our revenue that's coming in. But it seems that the North Carolina General Assembly may have other ideas. in as much as they're pushing, or they have already approved a referendum to amend the state constitution to limit property taxes. And what that means yet is unknown, because the wording for that amendment is rather vague, but it suggests that they could do anything from prohibiting any increase in property taxes, eliminating property taxes, or completely throw predictable revenue out the window for county governments. And I wonder if you gentlemen have any advice to us in terms of planning going forward, to how we should, I guess, how much risk assessment we should plan for there.
Well, in terms of the specifics of the legislation or what it does or doesn't happen, that I won't comment on for the moment. But we're actually seeing that in a couple different states across the country, in terms of state legislatures taking various proposed actions to maybe do some limitations of tax increases on the property tax side of the equation. The problem in North Carolina is that's such a very, very large portion of your annual revenue. In other states, it's not as big a portion as the budget. Here, it's a very large portion of your budget. It is your primary revenue stream. And so I think the agencies would likely look at that and say, okay, here's the primary revenue stream of the local government, whether it's for debt service or operations or whatever it is, and to the extent there's more limitations on that as opposed to less, that's going to be viewed negatively. The imposition of limitations on your ability to do the things that you as a local government need to do in terms of both revenues and expenditures varies from state to state, but generally speaking, to the extent you have less flexibility, it's going to be viewed more negatively by the rating agencies.
So there's potential that our credit rating could be downgraded because of these limitations being considered?
Yeah, there's the potential. I think the agencies would want to see what got adopted and how that was implemented and what really the impact was. But certainly less flexibility for you as a local government to do what you need to do to run the county is generally speaking a negative in terms of the rating agency world.
Okay.
And probably how we approach the fallout, how we plan accordingly.
Yes, I think we should have a plan.
Lemonade stand on the corner.
We need to be prepared for that contingency.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our financial consultants? Davenport?
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to see you.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is item number 5, the contract amendment with Kimley Horn from Johnston County Unified Development Ordinance. Braston Newton will call you forward to present this information, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Before you have an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance project, and this is amendment number 1. Just remind everyone that the original contract was $263,000, and as of today, we've spent $260,645 on that contract. And this, the amendment is in the amount of $160,000 with a scope of services, which you'll see listed, some of which have already been completed, and those are noted. And then estimates for the remainder of those scope services are there as well. And this is as needed. It is not a fixed sum. It is a fixed to that amount, but we will not exceed unless otherwise directed by the board. But those estimated sums there are on an as-needed basis. Staff would recommend or ask that the amendment be approved, as Kimley Horn has already completed quite a bit of some of this work already.
All right, any questions for Mr. Newton?
Has this money already been spent?
We have not expended any of it, but they have already performed some of the work, and that's listed in those scope of services.
I guess that's what my question was. Are we on the hook for this?
Yes, sir. Some of it.
Was it about half? I think it was half.
It's about half, yes.
Yeah.
I'm building a new house, and I hired a framing crew to come in and frame it, and it's framed. But to go forward, that's all they're gonna do. I'm gonna have to do the rest. I guess with that example, Can we do the rest?
Yes, sir. Based on the scope of services here? Yes, sir.
I mean,
with this,
can we do it internally without expending any
Oh, can we
more
do the
obligations?
rest? We can. It's probably going to extend some time, but yes, we can certainly do that.
What does it mean you will not do?
Oh, no, we can do it.
Your partial, your regular job, if you're doing the heavy lift
There may
on
be
this.
some delays in services provided during our regular duties during the day, yes, sir. Without a doubt.
Good question.
As you know, our staff is, I mean, we're somewhat thin. We have onboarded a new individual for a long-range planner, and we are in process of seeking a replacement for a planning technician, but it will have some impact.
My opinion is I don't see any need to jump off the horse in midstream. We're already well into coming up on 2 years in this contractual process for a process that we originally, I think we're shooting for 12 to 18 months max. We have encountered some extensions here based upon requests from citizens. These services have been performed. There's a cost associated with that. And we have an obligation to pay our bills. But we need to get this UDO in place, and it needs to be in place for some reason we heard tonight. We've got, well, it's been an interesting debate. Everybody's for private property rights till the bulldozers show up next door to their place.
That's right.
You need that UDO in place so you can sort through issues like that and come to some equitable and reasonable solution. We're looking at a document or land use development ordinance that I think was last updated, 2002? For the most part, we've made some minor changes over the years. But we're at the stage now that we've got to make sure that we've got better control over the development of our tax base so that we can try to get more net positive growth revenue coming in from the type of tax base. And that should be emphasized by the cost of community services analysis that we should have here soon. But this UDO is absolutely essential in order to do that. If we're going to see this land use plan come to fruition, that is the meat of the decision processes in that document.
Yeah, I tend to align with Commissioner Godwin on a lot of things when it comes to saving money, that's for sure. But I also have to agree with Commissioner Stovall on this one. You know, we hired consultants because we wanted professionals to take a look at that. Not only that, but they strategize for a living. This is what they do. And to that point, although I have all faith that Braston and his team could complete this, I don't know that we would get the outcome that we set out to achieve in the beginning when we hired the consultants. You know, it's like, yes, your general doctor can diagnose you, but you go to a specialist to make sure you're getting the very best opinion on what is not just the problem, but the root of the problem and all the solutions to fix it. And I feel like that's what we have in hiring a consultant is a specialist in this field.
Yes. Can they do it? Most certainly they can. Our staff is very capable. Is it the best use of their time? In all likelihood not. It's false economy because they've got other duties that they need to perform that are equally as critical, and we don't want to take away from that on a special project.
Well, not only that, but to your point, we all tend to be a little more personally attached to this, you know. So left up to us, we'd have 7 different opinions of what this UDO should look like because we've all got, you know, reasons that we're passionate about. And again, that's why you hire a consultant with outside eyes to make sure that we're doing right by the citizens. And I
Yep.
feel like, to your point, jumping off the horse in the middle of it is not the best thing for the citizens as a whole.
I think you've given outstanding analysis of the situation. Do I detect emotion anywhere in all that?
Let me just jump in. I'd like to also just say that that I realize that this process was started long before I was on the board, and it needs to be finished, and I'm totally understanding of all that. Also understanding that basically the reason it is costing more money is because the citizens asked for us to spend more time on it, and time costs money, and I mean, yeah, and I get that. I would have liked to have a little bit more a detailed description of some of the items that were on our that came up to that $160,000 for the broad slab meeting is on here, and that was in February, and I still would like to see a summary of how those surveys came out and what really came out of that meeting, because there was a lot of people, a lot of community involvement in that, and that's part of this cost. You know, I would have liked to seen a little bit better explanation of how 8 graphics cost, you know, $6,500, and so I would have liked to seen a little bit more detailed of how we got to this point. And I know we have a rate schedule that shows an hourly rate of the different areas, but it doesn't really align with each of these lines and how we come out to the numbers that are on here. So for that reason, I'm not against what we're doing. I'm just against the way that's being presented and the way we have to vote on it with so much vagueness.
Any other comments?
From my professional experience, I think the fees are reasonable for the task being performed.
I would agree with that, and with that said, I move to approve the contract amendment with Kimley Horn not to exceed $160,000.
I second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing? Go ahead.
I mean, I do tend to agree with Commissioner Rose. I mean, I'm assuming as a part of this, we can go back to Kimley. I just want to say it out loud, that we can go back to Kimley Horn and ask for more of a descriptive breakdown, obviously, because, you know, we want to show the citizens what the money is being spent on specifically. I mean, to a degree, we can get more detailed receipts, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, item number 6 is the budget discussions. This is another public hearing on our budget process, and we do have representatives from the Boys and Girls Club here tonight to speak with us about their program, and you have waited patiently, and we appreciate that so much. So welcome, and please state your name for us.
Lynn Bowles, 101 Dogwood Lane, 4 Oaks. We do appreciate your time tonight. We didn't bring quite a big crowd, but we do have a little bit of a crowd with us today, Mr. Chairman and our board members, and also our new resource development, Jamal. He just recently joined our team. We're really excited. Look forward to y'all meeting him. So I want to start and say thank you for your significant past support of our Boys and Girls Club. The question isn't whether Johnston County's youth have potential, it's whether we're willing to invest in it. And your investments have played a critical role in sustaining and expanding youth programs across Johnston County and creating meaningful opportunities for the young people that we serve. This past year alone, our program served 239 youth throughout the county. Through our partnership with the Johnston County Partnership for Children, more than 94% of participating students improved their reading levels during our summer program. These gains represent more than statistics. They represent confidence, growth, and a stronger foundation for future success. HealthQuest has also played a vital role in supporting our health and wellness initiatives by teaching water safety and survival skills, along with healthy living activities 3 days a week during our summer camp, something we're looking forward to again this summer. As one of our 4 programmatic pillars, health and nutrition for our kids goes beyond the basics of physical and emotional well-being. We also emphasize good decision-making to help youth resist negative influences and become productive, self-reliant young adults. In addition, 100% of our children participate in arts programming funded partly through the Johnston County Arts Council. These experiences expose youth to creativity and culture through drumming, painting, and performances at venues like the Rudy Theater. Our clubs contributed to Johnston County's economic success in the present by providing working parents and caregivers safe, reliable, and affordable after-school alternatives, and by employing 2 full-time and 13 part-time staff members who are committed to mentoring and supporting children every day. Our clubs also contribute to Johnston County's long-term success by providing our youth with life skills and career readiness. The future workforce of our community is sitting in our clubs right now. We are especially excited about the opportunity to serve more children with the opening of the Sierra Yard Center here in Smithfield in August 2026. This will allow children from more schools to participate in our programs and benefit from academic support, mentorship, arts enrichment, and wellness initiatives. Studies show that every dollar invested in the Boys and Girls Club returns $10.32 in benefits to the community it serves. We are grateful for the continued support of this community and our commissioners and the investments that have made these opportunities possible for the children and families of Johnston County. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions?
I do. I know you're part of Boys and Girls Club of Raleigh.
Yes, sir.
Do y'all have a separate budget, and how much is that budget?
We are, that might be a better question for our executive director. I'm on the advisory board now with Johnston County, but he could answer that question a little better.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Tolliver, and I serve as president and CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Wake and Johnston Counties. We have a unified budgeting process, but a separate tracking system that tracks all of our both income and expenditures here in Johnston County. And all the money that is provided for support in Johnston County stays in Johnston County. And so, yes, we are one organization, but we do track our finances separately just to ensure that, the money that we raise is invested back here in Johnston County.
All right.
Oh, and to answer the question, our combined budget is roughly $6 million, and this represents about 10% of our overall budget is about $600,000+ here in Johnston County.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one. What's your dad's name?
Hank Daniels.
You're my neighbor. Well, they are anyway.
Okay. Yes,
And
sir.
her dad serves on the Board of Trustees for the Johnston Community College.
And her
along
brothers,
with,
and her brothers flying in the Air Force.
Flying in Air Force, okay. So I thought that was who you were. But anyway, all right. Any other questions on Boys and Girls Club?
Thanks, Lynn.
All right, thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Appreciate you being here. All right, it is a public hearing for our budget process. Anyone else who would like to speak on the budget process, please come forward now. If there are none, then we will close the public hearing and move on to next item on the agenda is manager reports and comments. And I think also Mr. McLam, our finance director and deputy county manager, has a presentation also.
Good evening. As you know, Johnston County is self-insured, and through rising health costs, I waited to the end of the year to know what our health insurance costs would be for the year. And so I'm asking the board to appropriate $5.5 million to bring our health insurance costs up to date for fiscal year '26. I have planned for it in our cash flow, so it's not a surprise to us, and so that's in that model that we've done. I just wanted to wait until as late as possible during the year to get you a more accurate number.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. McLean?
No, we know this is not an isolated case. This is happening everywhere.
Right. We will need to have a motion.
Towards that end, I move we approve the amendment.
All right. I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Hester, you have anything you would like to add?
Thank you, sir.
All right, then we'll move on to board reports and comments, and I'll start with Commissioner Stovall.
Oh.
I like to jump around.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that I mentioned earlier about private property rights. We heard an interesting discussion tonight, and I say that there are limits to private property rights. I mean, that's what zoning is for. Your rights to use your property you see fit are something that's sacred in this country up to the point that you start affecting the quality of life of your neighbors or diminishing their the ability to make a living. That's what this UDO is focused on right now, trying to get right in it. I heard several people say tonight in opposing that rezoning that this man was sold his property for a particular reason, he should be forced to use it for that reason alone. Well, that's not really in keeping with property rights. But if he wants to come, if some conditions have changed and they want to come in and propose an alternative use of the property because conditions in their lives have changed, they have every right to do so, but they've got to do so in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and the rules and regulations that exist. That doesn't mean that it's going to be carte blanche approved. We saw it was not. So I think it's important for people to keep that in mind, and that's what we're trying to do with the UDO is seek an appropriate balance in here between regulation and private property rights. And I've heard a lot of people opine, well, we don't need a UDO. We don't need a free fall in this county. And I don't think you'll find any local government that would say that's a good scenario to be under. So hopefully we will get to a final result here that will be something that it won't please everyone, but it should be benefit the people of this county in the long run.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Godwin.
There's a lot of cyber scouts out there that have been flinging a lot of negative comments about this board and the staff and the management. I wish they had the acumen to sit through the discussion night with their representatives from Davenport and just look at where we stand as a county with our peers, how we've managed the finances and how the staff has directed things toward that end to achieve a conservative stature that we have now, AAA bond rating, highly regarded among our peers in other counties. And I just hope those cyber scouts can slow down enough to think about that.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, along the same lines, it's a difficult decision for us to sit up here and try to dictate what anybody can and can't do with their land. But to Commissioner Stovall's point, it does fall on our shoulders to make sure that we make good decisions moving forward. We can't undo what has been done decades in the past. We saw an article this week with what they thought the projected numbers would be for the growth in Johnston County, and we are 200,000 more than what was projected 30 or 40 years ago. So we can't blame those people for not being psychic any more than we can't blame us for being psychic. But, what we have in front of us is an opportunity to try to do things better, and I think that is the sole focus of this board. And I'm hoping that, we're not going to ever be able to make everybody happy, but hopefully the citizens are seeing that we're trying. And, even though the project tonight that we voted on was in an area we know is going to experience growth at some point in time in the future, the fact of the matter is it's not there yet. And unfortunately, we had to make a tough decision tonight. And, again, it's not lost on me that everything we're doing, every decision on every tract of land is hopefully for the betterment of this county. And to Commissioner Godwin's point, I hope everybody else recognizes that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rose?
I like Commissioner Godwin's word, cyber scout. That's a nice way to put it. But the thing I would like to say is that I've been blessed to be a part of this board, and what we saw tonight is years of financial stewardship that predates any of us, and that our staff has been the glue that's held this place together. So it does kind of concern me when you hear terms mismanagement or these things. We're out of this, and I see Ms. Farmer in the back there. We're dealing with water and sewer issues quite a lot, and we talk about we've got to build a new water intake, and the point is, you don't build it until you need it. So the idea that we're waiting until it's time to build it, it's kind of silly. Like, you wouldn't have wanted to build it 20 years ago when we didn't need it. You didn't have the customers to support it. So I appreciate all of the staff that we've worked with, and I think that we're blessed to have the staff that we have to do the day-to-day as we just show up a few times a month and do our business.
All right, thank you. Vice Chairman Lawler?
I don't have any. I enjoy hanging out with y'all all day, but I want to get into this closed session so I can get home and spend some time with my wife. So that's it for me.
I totally understand. Just one final thing I'd like to say. When you talk about the folks that have lots to say on different social media outlets, and that's their right to do that. I respect that. But I hear people that complain about the county and complain about really everything. And, you know, I wake up in the morning every morning and I think, you know, 40 years ago, I had a choice of where I was going to live, and I chose Johnston County. And I have never regretted that choice a single time. This has been the greatest place I've ever lived in my life. I raised my daughter here. My family and I love it here. We've owned businesses here. It's been a great place to be, and it still is. And tomorrow, I think my bride has a plan to go to Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to go out there and spend some money, and I get to do that here in Johnston County instead of having to go to Garner or somewhere else like that and do it. So, you know, all these things are great. I love having a BJ's out here. I mean, we've got the outlets. So this is fantastic. Are you kidding? My quality of life is extraordinary here, and we're blessed, and I'm thankful, and I appreciate all those who have made this possible prior to, and hopefully we will continue to be good stewards of the county and move things forward. All that being said, we do have a need for a closed session, so I'll need a motion to go in.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board go into closed session for the purposes of personnel pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6.
Here a second.
Second.
All right. There will be no decisions made in this closed session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Board will go in closed session.